Thank you very much for your introduction there. I feel somewhat at a bit of a disadvantage, to be honest with you, because I don't have a lot to do with journalism. As in, it's not my field there, so I feel a little bit of a loss after 2 days of people who are very active in the field, who have spoken here so well. I'll give it a shot nonetheless, and I think that what brought me here is the fact that I am the social inclusion coordinator of New Communities Partnership, and then the fact that by working with individuals, so service users and groups, we identify issues which we try to bring up to higher levels and kind of give them a policy status there if we can. So by way of that, I've realized that I suppose activism is a part where New Communities Partnership could be a little bit more active into. So I've kind of took upon me this side role of being a bit of an activist in NCP. And again, I realized the fact that probably civic participation is something that the new communities, the migrants in Ireland, would eventually need to do. Especially in the light that of the last census, that migrants in Ireland are 17.4%. And if we're looking at not only at political representation, but the way they are represented in key positions, in decision-making positions, we see very, very, very little. I've heard somewhere around the 2%, on the 1%. I don't want to get into that sort of debates, but migrants will need to put themselves out there. And that, I think, would influence a lot of things here in Ireland. In a way, I can probably not probably. In a way, I can relate to what Chinedu says. He says that journals or newspapers sell by way of circulating a lot. That's the same in a way with politics and with politicians. If they know that the migrant populations don't go out to vote or doesn't go out to vote, and it's proven that they don't go out to vote, nobody would listen to migrants because they don't vote anyway. So that's one way in there. Now, how that would affect I suppose migrants' representation, migrants' influence into media, and I think there's a very easy way of doing that. And Chinedu mentioned it already. Is that whenever they see something they don't like, they should be able to speak. They should go out there and speak. There's 17 again. I can't believe it after the 2016 census. There's 17.4% migrants in Ireland. I mean, imagine if half of them would start complaining about stuff they don't like seeing on television, or they see on radio, or they hear on radio, or they see the newspapers. I think again, saying it, and I'm preaching here to the choir. Activism is one of the things that they can do. I was talking with Kieran there and with I forgot your name, with June earlier on today, and I gave him about 2 examples of campaigns where media can actually be influenced. I'm Romanian, as you know, and things happened in Romania January, February, and March this year. There was a huge uproar about the current government trying to decriminalize corruption acts. That sounds mundane enough. Well, what happened is that there's a couple of television channels and a couple of printed media outlets that were staunchly in favor of the current government, and protesters did something very simple but very effective. They wrote to those companies that were placing adverts with, basically they were having publicity in those media outlets, and told them, we will not watch those and buy those newspapers and watch those television stations, and we recommend you withdraw your publicity ads from those television programs because they are very biased. And those companies, after a while, realized that they will probably lose customers, and they pulled down the ads, which in turn obviously left the television channels and the newspapers without a source of revenue, because indeed publicity is the main revenue of media. So it was very easy to, I wouldn't say coerce them, but try to steady their course a little bit and start reporting events or current events in a more balanced manner. So I think there's an easy way out there. As long as we're all on the same page and we can all coordinate in a way. I know it's easier said than done, but there is a very, very effective way there. And there's a second example of those. This time placed against companies that there was a whole scandal in Romania is full of scandals. There was a whole scandal. It has been for the last 3 years. An Austrian company is lodging trees illegally, and they make furniture and they sell it, of course. So a group of green campaigners have challenged some of the television stations and newspapers where that company was placing ads for their furniture and stuff like that. And in the end, company got almost a blanket ban in Romania in placing ads, well, unofficially, in placing ads on media outlets, which again hurt its sales. So I think media is there to listen. I think media can be convinced through economic factors in one way or another to actually report things and report current events in a more balanced way. Now we're talking here about fact that migrants are not represented both as an image and both as media representatives in Irish media, but it's not only here in Ireland. I think it's pretty much all over the world. Migrant or ethnic minorities are hard to kind of permeate into the main society. And I turn back. I can believe, I shouldn't have had this speech because Cinedu said it before. I think there's greater need for education in relation to this, and not only in professionals in media, but formal and informal education to pupils and, I suppose, people in general. I suppose workshops of this sort would be of great benefit for groups here in Ireland, because we need to educate people how to read news. We need to educate them how to respond to those. And then I suppose we need to educate people how to try and promote a positive image of migrants in newspapers as well. I think that's something that's not happening too often. Way too often we see ethnic minorities portrayed in negative ways, which I think is only part of the truth that's happening out there in the community. I think that there's a lot of very positive examples that can be reported upon. I think there's a lot of innovation that the ethnic minority groups would bring to a country like Ireland, and not only in Ireland. And then there's another reason for this. I've been saying it for a while, and I hope it's not going to become, I suppose, the reality. We are living in a very changing environment right now, and if migration continues the way the trend started in Ireland, we will have a very numerous minority in Ireland. And I would very much like not to see what happens in Ireland. I would not like to see what happens in UK and in France in Ireland. I think very consciously the current government and the future governments and policymakers will need to come with a very comprehensive integration strategy, which they need to promote very, very strongly, because I would hate to see cultural fails, if you want, at the end of the day, between groups here in Ireland. And on that positive note, thank you very much.